kicking for you like it's 9-3. You see, Rob impact the mic, keeping it real, G. Talk about relationships, money, and health. Dropping knowledge while I'm spitting it, that's a wealth.
Complex conversations, we break it down. Pop culture topics, we hold it down. Dive deep into society's complexities. Educate, entertain, never rest in it. Complex
Context, where the truth unfolds. Analyzing life through stories untold. Rob impact, dropping knowledge every day.
Unpacking life's complexities, one topic at a time. You're listening to Complex Context. Here is your host, Rob Impact.
Back at it again. This is Complex Context, and I am your host, Rob Impact. Thank you for joining us for another episode where we talk about life's complexities and banter back and forth, discussing how we can be better people and how we can kind of get past some of the obstacles that we encounter from day to day. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty well. I have no complaints. I'm very happy that we're at this point of being back together because, let me tell you something. Last week was a week, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but I do want to extend my thanks and appreciation to everybody in podcast land that keeps coming back. I do have to give recognition to our new listeners. I do see you there, and I really appreciate that. Shout going out to the fine folks this episode coming from California. I hope you're doing all right over there. The weather over here has been crazy. I haven't kept up with how things are going over on your side of the country. Your coast is usually toastier than ours, so fingers crossed you're keeping cool over there. Shout going out to Florida, Pennsylvania, and of course, New England's own Rhode Island and the home of Complex Context, Massachusetts. If you want any information about the show, you want to check us out, don't hesitate. You can always check our homepage, hosted by our podcast distributor and partner, Podbean. We are at complexcontext.podbean.com. Coming out of the end of last week, it was just an incredible week where I know that you know what I'm talking about when I say just so many things were going on, both professionally and personally, that you were trying to keep ahead of the game. You were trying to make sure you had some sanity for yourself, fulfill the expectations professionally and personally, family life, work, maybe some extracurriculars that you're a part of. That's cool. But I don't know about you. I'm at the middle-age point, as I like to say every so often, of experiencing this full life, and I'm so grateful for it. But wow, as I've gotten to this point, it's been harder to really grasp time management in the way that I want to. And when I say that, I mean there's so much I would like to do, not just in my regular duties and day-to-day responsibilities, but additional things as well for me and for other people, and there just doesn't seem to be enough time. And last week was such a crazy busy week. It was a whirlwind with responsibilities and appointments, a few of which aren't traditional for me. I said, you know what? I really want to treat myself. And I think everybody deserves that. Everybody deserves to know if you've accomplished a great deal of what you were hoping to accomplish and you've gotten to the other side of that at the end of a work week or just a week of planned responsibilities and activities, I think it's so important to treat yourself. Now, treat yourself, when you say that phrase, it's kind of subjective from person to person. Where I'm at in life right now, I think it's important to treat yourself in terms of how you feel. And not necessarily what you have. That could be part of it. I'm not saying don't do that. But in terms of how you feel, I think it's super important to make sure that you treat yourself and your body as the temple, quote unquote, that it really should be. I'm going to give an example that probably doesn't seem like it lines up with that, but hear me out. Once I got to Friday evening, I said, hey, I want something delicious for dinner. And my daughter was busy at her first performance of this community theater that I attended the next night. and it was just me at the house with the doggies. So I said, it's time for me to get a little something delicious and feel good in me. Now, I could have gotten any number of fast food options or say local takeout places, but I decided to get a nice giant grilled chicken burrito from one of the local chain places. I say it's a chain. It's really just 3 locations in the state. And man, was it jam-packed. It was the steamed shell. It was grilled chicken, potatoes, pico de gallo, queso, lettuce. What else did we have? Spanish rice, pinto beans. I mean, this thing was like a brick. I might post it on our X account or our Facebook account. Probably Facebook. I'll give you that info later on. But you might be saying, now, how is that really treating yourself and feeling well? I'm at the point where my body can feel a lot of the junk that is offered day to day to most of us. And it's really a shame that as much as we'd like to think our food is regulated for what's safe and what's not safe, yeah, maybe it's safe enough for people that they won't be dying or killed off right away, but long term, some of the ingredients that compound over time are not doing us any favors health-wise. And I'm at the point in life where my body feels it. I can feel something that it might taste good, but I feel terrible after. So this place has all fresh ingredients. Went in there, this giant brick of a burrito, came home, ate it, and I'll tell you, I felt so full, but so satisfied. And I didn't feel like a weighed down full. I didn't feel regretful about having it. I felt good. I treated myself. And that's really, as small as it may seem, that's kind of a starting point as an example of how you should be treating yourself. You should make sure that you set a goal that once you accomplish something or a series of things, that you have something to look forward to. And knowing that I was going to have the house to myself for a few hours, I said I really want to treat myself with this freedom of knowing I don't have to coordinate dinner with the family. I can just do my own thing. Another example of treating yourself might be buying a new shirt or a new outfit altogether. Seems kind of standard and maybe low-key boring, right? But the reality is, when you think about it, when you have that nice, soft, fresh cotton right up against you, and it hasn't like shrunk from multiple washes and drying, and it just feels so light and soft and looks good on you, that's treating yourself. Yes, there is an aspect of necessity there depending on what your clothing situation is. If you need more, maybe you just donated something, maybe you grew out of something, but that still is treating yourself as long as you're doing it in a way that satisfies not just your needs, but also makes you feel good about your choices. So when I say this, some people are going to say, now wait a minute, I consider treating myself going out, spending $150 at the local bar or maybe a nightclub, which, sidebar for a second, I don't know if I'll get into this. Maybe I will in a future show. Do the younger folks, like 20 years younger than me, do they still do night clubbing? I mean, I used to go clubbing all the time. I don't really see much in terms of pictures or reading stories on social media about people going out and socializing. So is that still a thing? I would be very interested in hearing about that. But let's get back on track. Treating yourself is more than just getting yourself an item. And I said it doesn't have to be like that, but let's touch on that just for the sake of not ignoring it completely. Yes, I think it's important that if you've accomplished, say, staying ahead of your bills, right? For those of us who have significant bills to try and stay ahead of, or you've completed a certain class, or maybe you just had this really tough obstacle that, whether it be work-related or personally, you've gotten to the other side of it. even if you don't need clothing, even if you're not an eater of a significant portion of food, and you're like, I don't need all that. Okay, fine. Is there something that you've been keeping your eye on? What about that book that seems like it has a pretty good plot? What about that digital movie purchase that you're like, nah, I don't feel like throwing down, but yeah, that $7 right now or $5, it seems like it's worth it right now. Those are the kinds of things that I believe is really just essential in making sure that you're not just fulfilling what you need to, but you have something to look forward to and feel good about. Whether it's feeling good mentally, physically, emotionally, it's so important to make sure that we treat ourselves. And you have to have a balance, right? You can't do it all the time. You can't say, oh, it's Monday night, my shift just ended, I'm going to go treat myself. Why? Well, I got through the Monday. It's situational. If it's one of those days where it just has been a whirlwind and you're just trying to survive, quote unquote, I get it. There are those times. I'm not saying ignore that. But generally speaking, when you make sure everything that has some type of effort or difficulty to it is worth rewarding, then you're kind of losing sight of the value of it. And you don't want to get yourself in that cycle. So for me, my experience recently was that nice fat burrito. Shout out to Santa Fe Burrito, by the way. If you're ever in the Massachusetts area, and no, I don't get paid any sponsorship money or anything like that. This is just strictly me freestyling. I love Santa Fe Burrito. They have such fresh ingredients. Their folks are always so nice. They're always pretty busy, which I think is an awesome testament to what they're offering. You can look them up if you happen to be in the Massachusetts area, Santa Fe Burrito. That's all I'm going to say about that. So that was my big treat. And another treat that I'm looking forward to down the line is I met a fine young gentleman who was checking out one of my things. I might have mentioned this, I believe, in a past episode. I have a train table, a model train table that I put together. And there, is a degree of, I guess, nerdiness, geekiness, if you want to say that. I just think it's a hobby and everybody has what they're into. It's funny when you think about that, right? You could talk about a train table or reading books or, I don't know, say tinkering with electronics and someone's like, oh, you're a nerd. But I can look at somebody that likes sports, certain NFL-crazed people, or, I don't know, let's say certain car-centric folks that really like old model vehicles, that they go to all the car shows. I mean, I could say that they're nerdy too, but I don't. And so it's weird how we kind of place this label on certain things that are like, oh, that's nerdy. It's like, nah, I'm just really into it. Just like you can be really into your thing. But there's some varying degrees of social acceptability for some more than others, and it's really just, it's so lopsided. There's no significance to it. But so I'm going to revoke that verbiage, and I'm going to say it's a very hobby-based, eccentric, but very enjoyable and family-oriented thing to be able to see and have around is this model train table. And a long-term treat of mine is the young gentleman who was over our place a few weeks ago during my wife's birthday get-together. He just really enjoyed it, made me feel awesome. Shout out to Riley. I appreciate how respectful he was to being in the area, just talking about some of the things that I've done with mine, and he's doing kind of a similar project, setting one up for himself. And I asked him, because he does an incredible job of Lego building, and that might sound kind of vague and maybe a standard thing like, oh, I can do Legos too. No. This guy does Legos in a way that you have to have talent and skill. Maybe I will give a link in the future. I want to make sure his parents are cool with that. But, oh, man, he is awesome. Like I said, a nice young gentleman. I had a really good conversation with him. And my treat long term was, hey, it would be really cool if I had a Lego version of a certain subway vehicle that I used to go on it all the time in Boston. This particular model that they've long retired it. It's been off the tracks for probably 20 years by now. And he looked up some pictures. I showed him some pictures and he said, hey, I could do that. And this is what it will be. And I said, hey, I would love to give you this much. That way you can buy the parts. You'll have a little left over for your time. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. So that's treating yourself. That's not something I need. I don't need a Lego version of this particular subway car. But long term, I want to treat myself because it is going to be such a unique piece of art that he is putting a lot of time and effort into. And I'm hoping at the same time it's a treat for him being able to challenge himself, because sometimes part of this model train thing and for drawing, artistry, song compositions, part of the treating is actually the challenge of getting it all together. So I'm hoping that while this ends up being a treat for me, he's treated to the fact that he's going to get paid a little bit for it, and it's a new challenge for him. And hopefully it will be something that when he puts into his portfolio of what he's done, it'll just make it that much sweeter. Coming out of all this, my point is, as we encounter our day-to-day responsibilities, it can be very difficult sometimes to think that we have an end goal or a certain mark to get to and say, okay, I can now stick my flag here and know that I've made it this far. If you're not at an older point in life, per se, you will eventually get there, forces from above willing, and you'll understand that it's really important while we're here to make sure that you're good to yourself and you're good to the people that love you and deserve to have their own treats and their own rewards and their own ridiculousness to look forward to that maybe isn't a life necessity, but damn, it sure feels good. So I want you to understand, don't feel bad about it. Like almost everything in life, in moderation, make sure it becomes a semi-regular thing to look forward to and that you implement. And just have fun with it. Make sure it's not about the size. It's not about the cost. It's about how do you feel? Does it make you happy? And my burrito sure was a heck of a treat that made me happy, didn't make me feel bad. And knowing that, maybe in I'll say a month or two, when I have that new Lego model that my young friend is building for me, I know that's going to be a treat for me to have here and put it on display, knowing that nobody else has it because he's making it custom. Treat yourself, treat your family, treat your friends, and let's make sure that we treat each other with respect and love, and everything else is extra, and it will just make it that much sweeter. If you want to reach out to us on social media, I would highly encourage it. We're usually poking around every so often. Sometimes it might be a little bit of a break, and I know that's hard to believe. Oh my goodness, how do you have a podcast and not continually engage in social media? Hey, the accounts are there. If you want to reach out, we will see it immediately, I promise. But, we don't want to be one of these shows where you feel like you have to keep up with everything and that we have to keep up with everything from you. We are here for each other, and I want you to understand that just because you don't see 50 posts a week doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. We always want to hear from you, so make sure you check us out on social media. We are at facebook.com/complexcontext1. We are also on X, the former Twitter. I hope to retire that statement soon. Our username is @ComplexContext1. And as mentioned before towards the top of the show, you can always check out any general show information as well as all the episodes being listed on that one central space. We are at the official Complex Context homepage, complexcontext.podbean, podbean.com. Finally, if you want something a little bit more lengthy or maybe a little bit more private, you want to suggest a show topic, give us some feedback on an episode or two that you've heard about, don't hesitate to send us an email. We'd love to read it and maybe read it on air if you're all right with that. complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. We introduced this new segment during our last episode, and boy, even after just one time, I'm a huge fan. I can't wait to do it again. It's time for some ridiculous life advice.
Ridiculous life advice.
Don't say you're sorry in the mirror because it provides a poor reflection of you.
Ridiculous life advice.
I told you I love ridiculous life advice. If there's one that you want to contribute using the information we gave you not too long ago, reach out to us, let us know. We'd be happy to credit you, and maybe we'll make you better during your day today, or maybe not. We might just make you more crazy. I have no idea. Just after the release of our last episode, there was the global internet outage for those that were the customer of a particular provider looking to protect assets electronically. And I don't want to dig too deep into this, mostly because my goal with this podcast is to not go over the same regular pop culture stuff that you're probably inundated with on all the news sites and all the social media sites, because you can go to any number of those. But I do bring it up for the fact of, one, it affected me too, unfortunately, because I had a medical appointment that I was looking forward to. I know it sounds weird, but it was with a certain doctor that is just fantastic. And it's a follow-up to something that I've been waiting on for a few months, and just timing-wise, that's how it should have gone. So it just happened that after about 3 or so months, on the day when I'm going for this follow-up, and I had a few questions and was excited to talk about some updated health results, I got a call in the morning saying, yeah, we're a victim of that outage from that company that's supposed to protect everybody, and now it just crashed Windows. And I said, whoa, what would the chances be that I would be able to not attend my appointment because of a global computer issue? I mean, there's going to be one contingency of folks that say, okay, hey, you just have to deal with it. That's technology. I'm going to be of the mindset, and I don't know, this might be where my time in life, my age is. Maybe I'm getting to that point. You got a point there, man. Let me tell you something. I'm looking at things as, the heck with the inconvenience to me or to people in general, right? What about the fact that we just had an incredible number of key services affected by this one particular company that runs this service? That unfortunately, listen, things are going to happen. I always tell people, especially people that I work with, technology is only as good as the day you use it. When I say that, I mean the next day could bring a whole different set of technological developments and technological crap outs that cause a massive headaches. So technology is only as good as the day you use it. It was not a good day when this happened to a bunch of people who had much worse scenarios than I did. I'm talking significant medical appointments and surgeries that were postponed. And of course, you have the travel aspect. Tons of people just trying to get back to where they need to go or maybe fly out to somewhere that they're expected to be at. It was pretty significant. But my second main point about this is why I'm bringing it up is nobody else as worried as I am as far as when we have these kind of technology-based services and measures in place that are designed to protect something, that there isn't some kind of redundancy in place to make sure it doesn't affect so many businesses and people on a global level. It's ridiculous when you think about it. You're telling me that there was not a standstill, but just this really mass inconvenience posed on multiple industries and multiple customers and clients within these industries because of one company and something went wrong? Don't tell me that that's acceptable today. I don't believe it. I will never understand, quote unquote, what that's about. I just look at it as, listen, I'm not anti-technology at all. I'm part of the generation that helped develop the template, let's say, of what we wanted the internet to be. And it was fantastic before a few of the generational people behind me took it and spun it to this complete absurdity that it is now. But that might be for a future episode. I don't want to get too far off track here. So technologically, I've always been in tune. I've always been around audio-video equipment, computers, different databases, user interfaces, and different setups. I mean, some of the old technology that I used to use, some people probably don't even know about. Thankfully, and I am thankful, during a lot of my education in communications, I got the opportunity to finally get my hands on legitimate reel-to-reel, and that was just unbelievable. But back on track, with that global outage, you can't tell me that en masse we were not looking at this going, wow, so it only really takes like one or two major companies to have some kind of either bug, as they claimed, or a hack, or anything that will cause a system-wide outage to really put a huge halt to day-to-day transactions. You can't tell me that you're okay with that, because I'm not. I'm really not. Now, why there weren't redundant systems in place and maybe there were, but if there were, in place that were able to at least continue the operation for all the clients that are involved with this company and make sure that their systems were restored. I mean, paper and pen, folks, sometimes that's the way to go. I'm not going to say that just because of this one incident. I am saying it is beneficial, as much of a pain in the backside as it is, to have some kind of redundancy. And even if it's not redundant, some kind of a backup system. Maybe for appointments, maybe for certain operational schedules that involve transit. Make sure that you have paper records available and a system where you're able to transition from electronic to paper means, at least temporarily, until systems come back. This might be easier said than done based off of whatever industry that this may or may not apply to. I am saying I think we've become way too reliant on technology. And I'm not, trust me, it feels weird saying this because I love my tech. I just got a new tablet about a week and a half ago. I love it. It's a Samsung Galaxy. I figured, hey, I've been a Samsung guy for a while. I love my phone. I might as well get a tablet to go with it because it feels better to not squint at a phone at night and have something that is smaller than my laptop. So I said, all right, time to get a tablet. So I love that. Again, getting off track a little bit. I can't help it. If we're going to talk tech, I love tech. So I'm not anti-tech at all. I think it's extremely important for us to utilize the tools that are a part of it. I think we also need to take a hard look in the mirror and ask ourselves, have we developed a reliance that is so great and is so connected with technology and its place in our day-to-day expectations that we're really long-term kind of screwing ourselves out of some sanity when things go wrong? Things went really wrong, and people were not able to get into their medical appointments. People were not able to fly around and maybe return home. People were not able to get some basic transactions, whether it be banking, shopping, things like that. It just, listen, I know things will happen, but you get to a point where you're not going to be able to afford the large-scale degree of those things happening without some serious repercussions. And we're lucky that it didn't turn out that way. What do you think about that? Do you think that there's room for still manual processes to exist alongside technology and what it's supposed to do for us? What is that healthy degree of paper record retention in line with technology reliance? I would love to know your opinion. Reach out to us, facebook.com/complexcontext1. We're on X at complexcontext1, and email complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. It's time for a new segment, and I know, I can't believe it. Second episode in a row where we're debuting a brand new segment, and I think this is something else, man. This is called Lessons from the Urban Dictionary.
Yo, it's time for the lessons. Urban words and the essence. Straight from the streets, no guessing. We'll break it down, no stressing. Stacks on stacks and drip too. What's the lingo? Yeah, what's new? For frontin' and keeping it true, we got the vocab for you. Urban Dictionary style. Learning the words makes us smile.
Lessons from the Urban Dictionary is a segment where we use a random letter generator to provide us a letter that we can go to in the Urban Dictionary and look up a word or phrase and tell you what it means. This episode's random letter is W. So we go to the Urban Dictionary and we look up a word or a phrase that starts with that. And this episode's phrase is W the D. What is W the D? It's an abbreviation or code for walk the dog. Said when the dog is within hearing distance and you don't want to commit yourself to taking the dog out. The example, are you gonna W the D? Shh, she'll hear you. W the D. I've never used it, but that's why we have together these lessons from the Urban Dictionary. As always, I want to thank you for your time. I hope you've had a good laugh. I hope you've had some mental stimulation. Do reach out. Let us know about the topics that we discussed today, how you feel about them, or just provide general feedback. We are on over 11 different platforms. We're on all the biggies, man. Apple Music, Spotify, iHeart. We're even on YouTube. You can't avoid us. You can go to YouTube and look up Complex Context. We have our shows on there as well. Don't forget, we're also all in on our homepage with the episodes, complexcontext.podbean.com. Feel free to subscribe. Please leave a review. We would appreciate it. Don't hesitate to ask any questions or interact. We love that. And I'm really hoping that during your week, or at least at the end of the week, you decide to treat yourself with something good. Enjoy it. You deserve it. Just work hard. Do well. Put in some sincerity to your day to day. And I think that reward on the other side is just going to be that much sweeter. My name is Rob Impact. Do what you do it often, do it well. Just don't do anything I wouldn't do, and you'll be doing all right. Thanks so much. I'll catch up with you.
Visit the show's website at complexcontext.podbean.com. Complex Context is a Mass Ed Media production.